And Jay, hopefully, will be back with us soon. So we're looking forward to getting old Jay Phillips back here, get him healthy again, and we can get rocking and rolling. But, Jay, again, things so far so good. Again, thanks for all your thoughts, prayers, wishes, good words. We do greatly appreciate that very much. All right, last night, man, to the surprise of no one, number 3 ranked South Carolina wraps it up with a bludgeoning of Missouri, especially that first half. South Carolina was on pace for like 1 billion points. I mean, it was a total skull kicking in the first half. Senior night was cool. Joyce Edwards had 23. Adina Okot with a double-double. She led the way in points with 26. Also, pulling down, 17 rebounds, 8 offensive boards. Now, Okot actually missed a couple threes last night. I know. Medina's been money from 3 lately. 12 of 14 at the rim, which is just sick. 13 of 16 overall from 2. She did, like I said, miss 2 3-pointers where she's been knocking them down lately. But Okot, a monster game. It's interesting. Remember when she was came off the bench for a minute? Remember that matchup issue? Oh, was it against Vandy? And she came off the bench. Remember, she was scuffling, but she had a really, really tough time in the Oklahoma game against their front court. And now she's playing with so much confidence, playing with freedom. And last night, again, 12 of 14 at the rim. Phenomenal. 26 points overall, 17 rebounds. Joyce Edwards also excellent at the rim. When Joyce Edwards is getting to the rim and finishing plays at the rim, she's almost unstoppable. And last night, 23 points, 9 of 11 at the rim for Joyce. And how about that senior, Raven Johnson, 4 of 6 from 3. 16 total points. Tania Latson goes for 17. She missed all of her threes. South Carolina has been a good three-point shooting team this year. Last night was a bit of a struggle. Only, 8 of 29 from 3 last night. And Raven Johnson, she was 4 of 6. Everybody else was, 4 of 23. McDowell was 2 of 7. McDaniel, though, Maddie did go 2 of 3 from three-point range. But for the most part, a lot of struggling from 3. Raven was really good, though, 4 of 6. Again, going back to Latson, she scored 17 senior night. But Raven Johnson going 4 of 6 from 3, I think, it's just fitting. Because, Raven Johnson, the national spotlight on Raven Johnson, probably the first time that anyone had that national glare on Raven was in that Final Four game a few years ago against Iowa when, Caitlin Clark did the wave at her. Like, yeah, go ahead and shoot. Go ahead and shoot your 3. Go ahead. And that was a game where famously Iowa packed the paint to take away South Carolina's interior offense and forced not just Raven, but the entire perimeter to beat them, and obviously they couldn't get it done. Well, since that moment, Raven Johnson, all she's done is shoot 44% from 3. That was the following year in the national championship undefeated season. 35%, which is above average from 3. 49% this year from 3. And to be fair, the year that we remember the Caitlin Clark wave, Raven hit almost 37% from 3, which is above average. Raven Johnson, for her career, is a 42% three-point shooter, which is way above average for women's basketball. So, talk about a narrative that was played out in a moment. But then you look at the total picture, and that narrative's wrong. 42% career from three. I believe that's right. Am I right? Or am I wrong? Oh, I'm sorry. I looked at the wrong. Let me do this again. I apologize. Let me do this again. Let me go back again. That's her career numbers, 42% from the floor, 35% from three. The year they won the national championship and went undefeated. And she did struggle her first year, only 24% from three. And that's when they were letting her shoot from three. Then she got a lot better. 35% from three is way above average. Probably about like 4 percentage points. Then around average last year. And then this year, 38% from three. So she is an above average three-point shooter in her career at 32%. So good for Raven Johnson. And again, the narrative is not true. She worked hard to become a better three-point shooter her last 3 years. And I think Bill and Tyler gave the stats of Raven Johnson playing for South Carolina. She's lost like 7 games in 5 years or something stupid like that. Been to the Final Four every year. I mean, it's sickening. 2 national championship rings for her. I mean, she was only there for 2 games her first year and redshirted. Well, she was hurt, but you're on the team. So you get a ring that year, and then you go to the Final Four, lose to Iowa, go undefeated, win a national championship, play for the national championship last year, you lose to UConn, and then this year we'll see what happens. Right now you're sitting at number 3 in the country. So you feel good for Raven Johnson, senior night. We're going to get a lot of Dawn Staley sound here in just a little bit. But a really good career. Now, again, no one's going to say Raven Johnson is up there, with Asia Wilson, Aaliyah Boston, any of the greats that have played at South Carolina, but playing on successful basketball teams and being a major contributor to winning basketball teams, Raven Johnson, she's got some nice numbers. And remember that national championship game against Iowa, how well Raven Johnson played that next year when they took on Caitlin Clark in Iowa, and South Carolina basically curb stomped them and took a national championship. I just ran away with that game in the second half, if my memory serves me. And it doesn't half the time anymore. All right, so last night was really good. South Carolina, 52% from the floor, scoring 112. Again, Okot, Edwards scoring over 20. Latson, Johnson in double figures. The bench contributed with, 26 points. Just a good night. No Tessa Johnson. She was hurt. My guess is she'll be ready to go when it matters. Next up for South Carolina, trip to Kentucky this weekend. It's Sunday, 1:30 pregame, 2 o'clock tip on our sister station, B1067. So a good night for South Carolina as they clinch the regular season SEC championship during the final home game. Yes, they'll play there in the postseason, but it's a different vibe. So their final home game in the regular season for South Carolina. And they clinch the SEC regular season championship. Next up is Kentucky. Again, that is Sunday. And the SEC tournament will start Friday, March 6th. I'm going to do this off the top of my head. Watch this. 11:30 pregame, noon tip. You'll hear it right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia. A week from today. Yeah. So you'll hear that game, again, 107.5 The Game in Columbia on Friday, March 6th. We got a little baseball series starting up tomorrow, or tonight, rather. Chase, tonight. 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch right here on The Game in Columbia and our affiliate in Myrtle Beach. Clemson's undefeated. Clemson's a top 10 team in the country. Clemson leads the country in WHIP, which is walks and hits per innings pitched. It means they don't give up a lot of base runners. Their team ERA is like a filthy 1.43. Their offense, the numbers and the stats are, wow, pretty good. So Clemson comes in with all this momentum. On paper, looked at as the better team. South Carolina comes limping in on both legs after just a bad loss to Queens. And, man, you can lipstick that all you want. That's a bad loss. And you can say, yeah, Tara, but Georgia Tech lost a game they should have won. LSU's lost a game they should have won. I get it. There's a bunch of teams who have lost a game they should have won. South Carolina's lost 3. But you know what? If you can win this series and start playing, crisp, sharp baseball, then no one cares about Queens. I'm just being honest. No one cares. You could have lost to Queens, Kings and Queens, Princes, doesn't matter, Rooks. If you win this series and you take 2 out of 3 against Clemson, the whole narrative will change. But it's not going to be easy, obviously. Not going to be easy at all. And you're going to face some, again, pretty good pitching. Tonight, Aiden Canuck goes for Clemson. South Carolina goes Josh Gunther, who has not started a game yet this year. Gunther, though, has thrown 2 games and thrown 8 innings. I'm looking at the stats right in front of me. He's thrown more innings as a reliever coming out of the pen than Goodman or Stone has thrown as starters. So Gunther has, it's not like you got to stretch him out a whole lot. But Canuck has been very good. Highly recruited, highly touted 2 years ago, coming out of high school. So if you're South Carolina, you're going up against a pitcher of this quality, this ilk. You just got to try to put good at bats together. Don't get yourself out. Don't chase out of the zone. Try to be disciplined. Make Canuck work. Defensively, you had 3 errors against Queens. Just play clean. Play clean. And pitching-wise, throw strikes. Just free passes, deep counts. Clemson will eat that alive. They walk more than they strike out so far in this early 8-game stretch of the season. You've got to play clean baseball. You've got to just do the little stupid, boring, fundamental things right. Don't help Clemson beat you. Get off to a good start tonight. If you could find a way, and look, again, Aiden Canuck is an excellent starting pitcher, but if you can find a way to grind yourself out a win, however you got to do it, now you can breathe. You can relax. Got one. Just need one more. That's it. And plus, after last year, when you got swept, you can just get tonight's game. And your outlook and everybody else's outlook will be a lot better. I will talk more about that little get-together starting tonight. Obviously, we're giving you a little Segra pregame, our local pregame tomorrow, getting you ready for the Battle of Bull Street before the network takes over on our sister station 98.5 WOMG, because we have men's basketball here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia and in Myrtle Beach tomorrow. So we'll have a little local pregame, and we'll talk more about that through the show as well with Elijah and Tyler. We'll come back. We will hear from Dawn Staley addressing the crowd and thanking the fans after last night's win at CLA over Missouri to wrap up the 10th SEC regular season title in Dawn's tenure. That's coming next here on the Postgame Show with Terry Ford. Hey, thanks a lot for hanging out with us. We're going to roll this baby up until, let's go till 6. What the heck, here on the game. All right, so last night at CLA, South Carolina on senior night, took Missouri to the woodshed, scored 112. Dawn Staley in the postgame addressing the crowd and thanking her seniors.
We really just want to thank you for always supporting us and putting us in this position year in and year out to represent you, to represent the Southeastern Conference as the champs. And to Medina, Big Mama. To Miriam, to Tanaya, and last but not least, Raven Johnson. For not only representing us as what you see champions on the court, but they're champion human beings. So we really appreciate you giving them a real home court advantage and create memories that I'm sure that will be unmatched when it comes to basketball. And I hope you can help me wish Adele Tack a happy birthday. Today is her birthday.
There you go. Got a little birthday wish in there. Also thanking, addressing the crowd and thanking all the seniors last night. That was Dawn Staley. And then we'll get another cut from Dawn here in a second. I mean, really, look, Medina Okot, from what I understand, she's going to put in, try to get another year, which South Carolina would love to have Okot back for another year because you have Okot and you have Chloe Kitts coming back, and then you'll have Ashlyn Watkins coming back once, she can. That's a lot of bigs. You'd be seriously, Chloe's a little different player than Okot or Watkins, obviously, but still their size, your rebounding, your defense, your depth. That would be a nice rotation of threes if you get Medina Okot back. And if you can't, look, you will have Chloe and Ashlyn Watkins and others. Tournevis, the freshman from France, there's skill there. There really is skill there. I think if she continues to develop, she could be a nice player. Because, with that size and the skill she has at that size, she could be a very difficult matchup. Just saying. But the front court should be okay. Skill-wise, depth-wise, both ends of the court for next year. But it'd be nice to have Okot back. Just saying. All right, here's Dawn Staley also addressing the crowd and thanking them.
We are so thankful for you. We truly are thankful for you. You braved the snow. You braved the rain today. You are the reason why we are able to be as successful as we are. So we really want you to know how much we appreciate you. We are the leaders of attendance probably for the 12th straight year. So I hope you understand every single win, every single championship, they're all dedicated to you for dedicating pretty much your schedules to us. You have done that. So thank you. To God be the glory.
Yeah, look, this fan base for women's basketball is obviously insane. It's loyal. It's there night in and night out. Like Dawn said, you'll get some snow because it snows so much in Columbia, South Carolina. You get different kind of weather, rain last night, and the place is packed. There's sellouts. And look, I say this all the time. That could be the same thing for the men. If the men could be consistently good, hell, consistently above average. You saw 2 years ago what it was like when Lamont's crew won 26, finished second in the SEC, got in the NCAA tournament. And that place was packed. I was there. Then I was there the other night against Kentucky. It was the opposite of packed. This fan base wants to be able to embrace men's basketball. But the program has to give them a reason. Because you see, again, last night with the women, you see it all the time, leading the country in attendance year in and year out. And this is a fan base that is dying to care about men's basketball. They just are. And again, it's you see the loyalty to the women in those stands. Again, I've been to women's games too. And you look around that barn with that place packed during these women's games. I mean, heck, South Carolina football program has been inconsistent, high, low, high, low, high, low, but you're always there. You just are. You are. And if we could see a level of consistency, at least consistency. Look, would it be great for every program to be like Dawn's? Oh, absolutely. Is it going to be? Well, you would hope, but you can't count on that, right? It's kind of difficult. That's a high bar. But if these other sports, football, men's basketball, obviously baseball, you get this thing turned back around because the fans are there. They're there. It's just the losing beats them down. And I get it. But you see, again, last night is a shining example. 2 years ago, men's basketball, crowds at, baseball used to be crazy, obviously. We've seen sellouts at Willie B. Again, thumbs up to you. And what the attendance numbers are for women's basketball again this year. All right, so we have this little baseball series starting tonight, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch. Let's hear from Paul Maneri and Ashby Mixon, who covers Clemson. Let's kind of get a little back and forth action here about both programs up next. It is the postgame show. Terry Ford, happy you could be along. We're going to go till 6 here on the Game Network, and at the Game TV radio on YouTube. Postgame show. Terry Ford till 6. Tonight, baseball, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch, Clemson, South Carolina. Pitching matchups for the weekend. Aiden Canuck tonight for Clemson, Josh Gunther for South Carolina. Gamecocks on Saturday, Am Phillips, who has been good in his 2 starts. Michael Sharman of Clemson has been excellent in his 2 starts. Saturday, Riley Goodman, who has been the starter Friday the first 2 weeks. Riley Goodman now will be the Sunday starter against Talon Bell of Clemson. And, we'll hear from Paul Maneri here in a minute about changing the rotation. But, Goodman's got a ton of talent. Lots of him. We talked to Coach Maneri on Monday. And, and he was thinking about maybe tweaking the weekend rotation even on Monday. He said how good Riley Goodman is. And even said about, maybe, we, gave Riley a little too much too soon. And maybe we need to take a breath. And so taking a breath is moving Riley Goodman to the Sunday spot in the rotation for the weekend. But Coach Maneri talking about, changes in the rotation. Let's get this in so you can check out what Coach said about the rotation we just went over.
Well, first of all, the decision to put Josh Gunther in Friday night had a couple of factors to it. Throughout the fall and the preseason, I really felt Josh Gunther was really one of our top 2 or 3 pitchers. And he was obviously disappointed when he wasn't selected to be in the weekend rotation to start with. But, he showed what he's capable of doing the first game of the season when he came in out of the bullpen. We can extend him, and he was used more as a short reliever when he was at Wake Forest. But one of the reasons he came here was because he wanted to have an opportunity to pitch in a more extended role. So he's got a lot of experience. He's pitched against Clemson before. I don't think the Friday night lights, so to speak, will be too big for him. Riley Goodman is still a kid that I think very highly of, and obviously he's going to be pitching Game 3, and I think he's got the brightest of futures, as I've mentioned before. But he kind of vaulted into that Friday role, that opening game role, after both Jake McCoy and Alex Philpott were injured. And it's a lot to throw on a kid with virtually no experience in college.
So, that's kind of where Coach's head was even on Monday when we talked to him. And so I see it. I get it. Goodman's got tons of arm talent. Put him in Sunday. It's a little less pressurizing being a Friday night guy, especially in this series. Josh Gunther coming from Wake Forest. Threw a lot in the pen for the Demon Deacons, strikes out a ton of hitters. Give him the ball. He's got experience. He's been around a minute. So far this year, again, like I said, in 2 outings, he has thrown 8 innings. So let him roll. See what happens. So Josh Gunther will take the ball, and we'll see where it goes. Again, that dude Canuck can pitch. Canuck can pitch. And speaking of that, let's get the other side real fast. Speaking of Aiden Canuck, Ashby Mixon from the Clemson Insider talks about the Clemson sophomore starting pitcher.
Yeah, Aiden Canuck will definitely get to start tomorrow night. It's interesting. I was looking at it. He's never actually thrown in Founders Park, so that will be a new environment for him. He threw at Clemson on Sunday his freshman year, and then I think Clemson again last year. So this will kind of be, even though he's a junior guy, more of a veteran, a first for him as well. He had the flu going into the first week, so his performance maybe doesn't look as dominant on paper as he was at times last year. Kind of the same in his last start this past weekend. But I think Clemson fans don't have a lot of fear about him getting to his form and ending up how he has been these last 2 seasons as the Tigers' ace. But, yeah, I thought it was interesting that this will also be his first opportunity to pitch in Columbia.
That is interesting. But, again, that 1-2 punch that Clemson will be throwing this weekend of Canuck and also Sharman. Again, Canuck this year so far has not given up a run, 14 strikeouts, 8 innings pitched. Sharman, 0.82 ERA with 14 Ks and 11 innings pitched. And then you get Bell at 3.60 ERA, 4 strikeouts in 5 innings. But the first two dudes have really humped it up in 2026. But, Am Phillips for South Carolina in his 2 starts, the numbers are good. They really are. So we shall see. But again, throw strikes, man. That's what you got to do. It's easy. It's simple. It's duh. It's a no. You sit there and go, really, Tara? But sometimes easier said than done, and we've seen that in moments with this pitching staff. There have been games where the Carolina pitching staff has been really good, but in the losses, they have not located. They've gotten behind in counts. They've walked hitters. And, when you're putting guys on base, like in that Army game, in the Queens game, you can't do that with Clemson because they're a much better offensive team than Queens and Army put together. You got to throw strikes. Stay ahead in the count. No nibbling. Come after them. Be aggressive. That's sometimes you get yourself in trouble. You don't have that confidence, and you start nibbling. Now, nibbling's good when you're laying on the couch, popping Funyuns. God, they're good. Man, they're good. But not when you're pitching. So if you throw strikes, you're being aggressive, stay ahead in the count. Don't beat yourself. And we'll hear more from Paul Maneri and also Ashby Mixon from both sides as we all roll through the show. In South Carolina, Clemson again. We will have our local pregame before the network pregame for the Battle of Bull Street. Now, I'm going to try to do this and not confuse you because I'm going to try to confuse myself because God knows that's easy. All right. So tonight, 6:45, coverage starts. Clemson, South Carolina, here on 107.5 The Game. And our affiliate in Myrtle Beach, 100.3 The Game. At 1 o'clock, though, locally here on 107.5 The Game, we'll do our little warm-up show to get you ready for the Battle of Bull Street, South Carolina, Clemson. Elijah and Tyler, hour and a half, getting you prepared, then handing it off to the network, which will be on our sister station, 98.5 WOMG. And it'll still be. So that's what's going to be going on. It will be on, obviously, but on our sister station, 98.5 WOMG. That will be tomorrow, 2:45 pregame, 3 o'clock first pitch. And, of course, that game's at Segra here in Columbia, right there on Bull Street. Here on the game tomorrow, though, we will have men's basketball. 3 o'clock pregame, 3:30 tip. South Carolina going to Athens to face Georgia. And we'll talk about that later. Then Sunday, hanging with me? Here we go. Sunday, 2:45 pregame, 3 o'clock first pitch. Baseball back here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia and 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. On B106 here in Columbia, the women will finish up the regular season in Lexington to face Kentucky, 1:30 pregame, 2 o'clock tip. So basically, to boil it down, we have baseball on 107.5 The Game tonight and Sunday. Saturday, baseball is on 98.5 WOMG. Men's basketball Saturday on 107.5 The Game. Women's basketball Sunday on B106.7. See, wasn't that easy? No, it wasn't. We'll do it again over and over again just to make sure you get it. And we'll try to get it on social media as much as possible. And maybe we'll have David Dare just go door to door. Hey, just want to give you the start times for the weekend's games. It's this time of year. We try our best. It's kind of how we have to do it. Anyway. All right, let's crack the vault. We got some cool stuff in the sports world and also a little bit of something from the movie world. That's coming up next here on the Postgame Show. Terry Ford, thanks a lot for hanging out as we take this sucker up until 6 here on the game. the Game Network in Columbia, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, and Florence, and also at the Game TV Radio, which is our cool YouTube channel. All right, let's crack this vault open. Today, February 27th, we've got our kicker on the sports is just goofiness. All right, let's get rolling. This day in 1918, every now and then I like to grab these, and I don't know why. This day in 1918, the first neutral site game in NHL history was held in Quebec City. The Ottawa Senators beat the Montreal Canadiens 3-1. On this day in 1955, the Boston Celtics beat Milwaukee 62-57 in Providence, Rhode Island. It set records for the fewest points scored by one team, by both teams, since the introduction of the 24-second shot clock. Basically, that was a snoozer. Snoozer. Flip side was 1959. The Celtics beat the Minneapolis Lakers 173-139. 7 NBA records fall. The Celtics scored the most points in a game, most points in a half, most points in a quarter. Richard Petty won the rain-shortened Daytona 500 this day in 1966. Florida apprentice Mary Rust becomes the first female jockey to win a Grade 1 stakes race in North America. She captured the Widener Handicap aboard Lord Darnley at Hialeah Park in Florida. 1992. Whenever you think about your life is, I don't know, going through a bad patch, this might help you. Sit and stop and say, you know what? It could be worse. I could be the Prairie View basketball team from the early 90s. This day in 1992, Prairie View sets a Division I record for most defeats in a season with a loss to Mississippi Valley State. Prairie View 0-28 on the season in 1991-92. Sweden gets their first hockey gold medal this day in 1994, beating Canada in the Lillehammer Games. Canada had the lead. They were a minute 50 away from their first championship in 42 years. Magnus Svensson scored a power play goal to tie it at 2. And then Peter Forsberg scored the game winner for Sweden. This is, again, when you think life sucks, you could have been the Portland Trail Blazers in 1998. On this day, Indiana doubled Portland, 124-59. First time in NBA history one team had doubled another team in points. Okay, got to get this in. This is funny. Travis Kapfl's NASCAR Sprint Cup vehicle, Travis Kapfl, Kvapil. His NASCAR Sprint Cup car was stolen on this day in 2015 from a hotel parking lot, forcing him to withdraw from a race at Atlanta Motor Speedway. The team didn't have a backup car in Atlanta, so was forced to drop out when the stolen machine could not be located in time for NASCAR's mandatory inspection. How do you get your NASCAR stolen? Help me out with that. How? I wanted to research this so bad, but I just did not have time. But how does your Sprint Cup car get stolen from the hotel parking lot? Can you see coming up? Have you ever, first of all, you ever had your car stolen? Have you ever had your car towed? And the feeling of coming outside and seeing your car missing sucks. How would you like to be a Sprint Cup driver? You got a race later that day. You walk outside. Oh, hell. Where's the car? A thief stole the pickup truck and trailer containing the 44 car from a Drury Inn parking lot. D-R-U-R-Y, Drury Inn parking lot. The car's valued at $250,000 at the time, spare engine $100,000, racing equipment a little bit over $17,000. Police found the car and trailer on the side of the road near Atlanta the next day. No serious jail time was served by the perpetrator, and the team was forced to miss a race. Just, wow. Some dude basically, I don't know, did he hotwire the pickup truck? Because I guess the trailer was hooked to the truck. I'm just picturing this guy walking outside. Where the hell's the car? Wow. Just wow. All right. On this day, we got a little movie history real quick. On this day in 2019, this movie debuted at the box office, or debuted in theaters. All right, so I think we didn't play it right. It didn't come out right. Anyway, Captain Marvel, this day in 2019. Debut of Brie Larson, Samuel L. Jackson. It was solid. It was all right. Marvel movies, look, I'm not I don't watch every Marvel movie. I don't. But I thought the last two Avenger movies were cool. I watched them with my kids. I watched this one too. One day I was flipping around the TV and it had just come on. I forgot what channel. I said, "Hey, what the hell?" I'm sitting around. Well, I watched a little bit of it. And I ended up watching the whole thing. It was all right. It was solid. Solid flick. So Captain Marvel this day in 2019 debuted. Or premiered, I should say. Alrighty, so there you go. There's the vault. For some reason that was playing fine in my ears. I don't know what happened, but man, you missed a really good clip. 4 o'clock hour, we'll get back to some sound from Lamont Paris and Dawn Staley, Paul Maneri, Ashby Mixon from Clemson Insider. We got a lot to get to. Got a busy weekend of sports here on the Game Network, and here in Columbia. All right. Hour 2 here at the old post-game show. Got a lot going on here this weekend. Obviously, the Battle of Bull Street tomorrow at Segra, tonight at Founders, South Carolina, Clemson, and then Sunday in the Upstate. Coach Maneri talked about the changes to the rotation, and we played that little cut for you here a bit ago. And again, tonight, Josh Gunther takes the ball for South Carolina. Of course, Aiden Knock goes for Clemson, their ace. Saturday, Amp Phillips, Michael Sharman at Segra. Sunday in Greenville, Raleigh Goodman, Talon Bell. And Goodman was just moved, take a little pressure off the young fella. His first 2 starts this year, his first 2 collegiate starts. Again, he's got game. He just has to refine it. He needs reps and starts. And if he can work on location, some pitch selection, some things of that nature, Goodman, he could be nice. So he'll go Sunday. All right, here's Paul Maneri. Last year, remember, you know what? Let's do this. Here is Paul Maneri. Let's go back to, where's it at here? I have to dig a little bit. So while I'm digging, we'll play Paul Maneri's thoughts on the rivalry this year with this 3-game series.
Well, I think there's more to it just because, it's Clemson. I mean, the Clemson-South Carolina rivalry is maybe the best rivalry in all of college baseball. It means a lot to everybody in the state, one way or the other, whichever side you're on. So there's no hiding that fact. I mean, I could give all the coach speak in the world to the players. Hey, we could, it's just another game, and we have, a bunch of games left after that. But the reality is it's a little different. It's a lot different, actually, and I have a lot of respect for Clemson and their program and what they've done already this year. So it'll clearly be the most challenging opposition that we'll have had this year. So, the game's hard enough to play, and especially when you're playing against a really good team, you can't, try to hit the ball harder or throw the ball faster or run faster. You can't take yourself out of your own game. And I've talked to the players about that. But at the same time, their focus should be laser sharp, and their hustle and their enthusiasm and their energy and want to get after it and play with a lot of confidence and all those kinds of things, because it's obvious who our opponent is, and it's something that we're looking forward to. I thought we had 3 really good games last year, and unfortunately we just didn't get the job done towards the end of the games. The last couple innings kind of determined the outcome of those games, and I feel like our bullpen is more equipped now. If we get into that position, hopefully we'll be able to finish the job. But yeah, it's they're big games. I'm not downplaying them at all. It's hopefully going to be games that we'll play really, really well and hopefully have some good outcomes.
Okay, so that was this week with Coach Maneri. And again, he's like, hey, this is a big deal. It's a big deal to the state. Now let's go back last year. Coach Maneri talking about the rivalry right before this series started.
Well, I was worried because that's all anybody in this town ever talks about is playing Clemson. I never see anything like it. It's a new experience for me to I sometimes think that the fans care more about what we do against Clemson than they do what we do in the SEC, which is crazy in a way. It's the 3rd weekend of the season. After this weekend is over, we're still going to have, 42 more games in the season. So, no matter what happens this weekend, and obviously I hope that we have a lot of success, but no matter what happens, there's still going to be a lot of baseball ahead of us. So, I know it's important to the fans, and it's important to me as the coach. It's important to our players, and we're going to go out there this weekend and do everything we can do to be successful against a really outstanding ball club. And I know the fans are going to flock to the games, and the weather's going to be beautiful, and 3 different venues. I mean, that's a pretty cool setup. So we're just really excited about the opportunity to go out and play and against an arch rival. I'm not downplaying the games one iota, believe me, but I just know that whether we sweep or they get swept or something in between, there's still going to be a lot of season left. So we can't overdo it with my players. You know what I mean?
And look, what Paul Mainieri there is saying makes sense, right? It does. In theory. Hey, man, we got a lot of season after this. We got the SEC schedule, which is a bear. So, basically, look, if we have a great series against Clemson and then go soil ourselves in the SEC, that's not good. Just like if we have a rough series against Clemson and then go have a hell of a year in the SEC, that's great. But, so in theory, is Coach right? Sure he is. But we're not talking about theory here. We're talking about rivalry, emotion, hate. That's what we're talking about. And I think after that series last year, and look, Paul Mainieri took some heat for those comments. Absolutely he did. And I understand. So this year you heard a little different. It was a little bit different vibe from Coach this year. It's like a lot of things. You got to experience it to get it and understand it. And once Mainieri went through it last year and did hear the criticism he did about, hey, everybody's talking about this thing. My God, what's up with you people? Now he gets it more. And look, LSU doesn't have a rival like that. LSU doesn't have an in-state rival that's in the non-conference that you have good old-fashioned dislike for. They just don't. So Mainieri didn't get it, didn't understand it. Notre Dame, where he coached at, didn't have that either. And so that was new. That was new to Paul. He got a better idea of it this year, and you heard it kind of in his little riff about the rivalry. All right, looking at the Clemson side again, Ashby Mixon, Clemson insider on the Extra Point, I believe, yesterday. Now, Clemson on paper, they're undefeated. Pitching, they lead the country in whip. Their ERA is under a run and a half, like 1.43. Offensively, their numbers also, you go, whew, wow. So Ashby was asked, what's the weakness so far this year, if there is one, for the Clemson Tigers?
You know what? Yes, because I was looking at it, and Clemson's defense has already notched 11 errors through these 8 games. They have not been as solid defensively as I think many people thought they would be, with a lot of veterans returning. A lot of that is because you have Tristan McClatty, who's kind of a utility player, playing third base most of the time. And you've seen some issues with that so far. 3 errors on Luke Gaffney. So that's been a bit of an issue for these Tigers so far. Additionally, like I kind of mentioned, you have a lot of freshman pitchers that you've been relying on, in a Dylan Harrison, and an Eston Simpson, and a Danny Nelson. Those are kind of the big 3 that have been helpful so far. And they've never been in a rivalry environment. They've never been in the hostile environment. Clemson hasn't played on the road yet this year. Last season, they started off in Arlington, Texas, against a lot of top 25 talent. This season, those freshmen have not gotten the opportunity to face that. So it's kind of going to be an experiment in learning how they react to tough competition in a hostile environment. So those are the 2 things, the defense and the freshmen in these big moments, that I think could give Clemson fits at times.
All right, so Ashby lays it out. Okay, if there are weaknesses, kicking the ball around the yard, 11 errors. So if you're South Carolina, again, putting the ball in play is your friend. But Clemson's pitchers, they strike out over a hitter an inning. What was it? I think 85 strikeouts in 69 innings. So they strike out. They strike out hitters. If you're South Carolina, put the ball in play, force Clemson to, make plays. I mean, that's not the only thing you're doing, obviously, but, there's going to be maybe opportunity for Clemson defensively to boot the ball around the diamond, according to Ashby. And you look at the stats, 11 errors. Young players, not battle-tested yet. I mean, look, young players, again, we always go, well, they're inexperienced, they're young, they'll be scared, frightened, whatever. Moment might get too big for them. It's happened sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on each individual young player. Some young players are phenomenal. You look at what Will Craddock has done for South Carolina so far. But some young players will struggle. I mean, that isn't unknown, so I get where Ashby's coming from. We're looking for reasons to have some hope because according to our Twitter poll, there's not a lot of hope here. We'll get into that here in just a little bit. But that's what you're looking for, is Clemson helping you out by making some mistakes. Defensively, making some errors. Maybe just making just the bonehead play. It might not be an error, but it's a play that can, help South Carolina offensively. That's where you're at. That's what you're looking for. And again, that is 6:45 tonight from Founders, right here on the game, South Carolina and Clemson. Again, Clemson is sitting in the top 10 in D1 Baseball's top 25. Matter of fact, the Tigers number... No, I'm sorry, they're not in the top. They're top 15. My bad. They're 15th in the country. North Carolina, the other South Carolina non-conference opponent, is 8th. Clemson sitting at 15th, 7-0 in the year. They moved up from 19. And, of course, there's a new poll coming out here on, Monday? So right now, Clemson is 15th in the country. Undefeated. By the way, the top 10 teams, 7 of the top 10 teams are from the SEC. If you haven't been following the rankings, because it is early in the year, UCLA's at 1. They're a team that had a midweek loss that was a head-scratcher. LSU also, McNeese State, last week had a midweek loss that was a head-scratcher. They're 2. Texas 3, Mississippi State 4, Georgia Tech 5. Another team that had a midweek loss. Everybody went, what was that? Arkansas 6, Auburn 7, North Carolina 8, Coastal Carolina 9, Florida 10. 7 of those 10 teams are SEC teams. Only North Carolina, Coastal Carolina, and Georgia Tech are not from the SEC. That's what's coming later this year. All right, Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us as we kick till 6 here on the game. We'll pop back. Let's switch to men's basketball. Lamont Paris and his crew traveling to Athens to face Georgia. Georgia's kind of gone multiple personality disorder here in the last, month, roughly? But Georgia is favored. Can South Carolina go into Athens, play their A game? Georgia comes back with their C or D game, and could South Carolina pull a W? We'll talk about that next. Hear from Lamont Paris as well, as Lamont will be talking about injuries and what's going on the injury front with the Gamecocks. That is next here on the Postgame Show. We are running up until 6 on the Game Network, and at the Game TV Radio on YouTube. All right, so the men this weekend kick it off to Athens to face Georgia. The Bulldogs are sitting at a 9 seed in Joe Lunardi's bracketology right now. So they are in barely. Georgia can't, they can't screw up. And their schedule, after South Carolina, I don't believe is a softie. I'll double check it right now while we're hanging. I looked at it yesterday. They have some games they could lose, especially the way they've been playing. They've been very good night, bad night, good night, bad night, good night, bad night. But they really, built up enough momentum earlier in the season that's kind of carried them. All right, here's Georgia. Let me find this. It's always fun radio when I'm looking something up. All right, so Georgia plays South Carolina at home. Then they'll get Bama at home. And then they travel to Mississippi State. So if Georgia can win 2 of their last 3, because beating Alabama is not going to be easy, especially because Georgia here lately, they've lost to Vandy, they've lost to Oklahoma, lost to Florida, lost to A&M, Tennessee, Texas. See, 3, 1-3, 1-5, 3-5. They're 3-6 in their last 9. And they have lost it. They lost at home and on the road. They've been consistent. So you figure Alabama would be a chore, but if you handle your business against South Carolina at home, and then you go to Starkville and you beat a Mississippi State team, we saw how bad Mississippi State was here. You win 2 out of your last 3, you're in the dance no matter what happens to you in the SEC tournament. That's the way I feel about it, because Georgia would finish up, 9-9, 21-10. That should get them in, because right now they're a 9 seed. I think that would, but if you lose to South Carolina and then get beat by Alabama, all of a sudden or like my aunt would say, your hind parts would end up on the bubble, which would probably be uncomfortable. Probably like a wedgie feel. So Georgia looking to just handle their business against a team that they should handle their business against. If you look at projections. Georgia, if you look at ESPN, an 85% chance to win the game. And if you look at Ken Palm, Georgia also will be favored to win the game. So I want to double check to make sure. Let's see that. Yeah, they favor Georgia to win by 12. They give South Carolina a 15% chance to win, sort of just like ESPN. I think, again, Georgia, you handle your business. You win 2 out of your last 3. You should be in the dance. Right now, 35th in Ken Palm is Georgia, 17th most efficient offense in the country, but 79th on defense. Mike White's teams usually are worse on offense and better on defense. Georgia this year has played a fast tempo. That's nothing. South Carolina can't get into a track meet with Georgia. It won't end well. South Carolina plays slow to begin with. And Georgia's 19th in tempo. You want to play your game if you're South Carolina. Georgia, like we said, really good offensive team. From 3-point range, they're a tick below average, but they're in the top 35 in 2-point percentage. They're really good at not turning the ball over. They're not a team that chucks a ton of threes, and they're not really great at passing the ball and moving the ball consistently. So this is a team that will use its bench as well. So that's what you're getting in Georgia. Defensively, again, they got some issues. Not a good offensive rebounding team, or they're not good at stopping other teams from getting offensive rebounds. They are a really good offensive rebounding team. So South Carolina's got to keep Georgia off the offensive glass, and South Carolina, who has struggled at times rebounding-wise, might be able to get a little something on their offensive glass. So that's what you're looking at with Ken Palm. All right, Lamont Paris, talking to the media at Carolina Calls last night, was asked about the injury issues right now with South Carolina.
Yeah, it's been a long and windy road for Miles in terms of injuries, everything from things that are minor to some things that have been, could have been significant to some things that were significant. So he was out for the game. Today was the first time he was back at practice, just in the film room, and that just when you get a concussion, there's a sensitivity to light and movement and whatnot, and so he'd been kind of just laying low.
And it's a second one this season.
It's a second one, yes. And I think there is a cumulative effect as you start talking about those. And so just with an abundance of caution, we just wanted to make sure. And so he was back into the film room today and watched practice today. Didn't do anything physical. There'll be a protocol. There's a concussion protocol he'll have to go through. And so, but it was nice just for the guys at least to see him be in the room as we were going over some film.
Miles Studi, I feel bad for the dude. He's just had a rough go. Got injured at Greenbrier to start the season. And again, he was injured last year. He was injured his first season. He's been banged up all 3 years at South Carolina. Just has been. This year he's had to wear that mask. Looks like he's in Scream 7. You know, it's been a tough go. I wonder how much that mask has affected his three-point shooting, because his three-point shooting it's his worst season of his career if you look at his three-point percentage. I wonder how much that mask just screws up, whether it's vision, depth perception, peripheral, whatever. Is it screwing up just his sight lines when he's shooting threes? I don't know. But Miles Studi's just had a rough time. Just has. I feel like the health of the rest of the crew should be solid for this game in Athens. Like we said, Georgia is favored. All the numbers point to a double-digit type Georgia victory. If that does happen for South Carolina, then your schedule plays out to finish up the season. At home against Tennessee, you won't be favored. At Ole Miss, you won't be favored. But you have a shot in Oxford, because Ole Miss is as bad as you've been. They have struggled just like South Carolina. Right now, South Carolina can be anywhere between like the 14th to the 16th seed in the SEC tournament. Maybe 13 if they, handle their business here at the end of the year. They're going to be somewhere in that area. Ole Miss has struggled. LSU has struggled. South Carolina, LSU, and Ole Miss all are 3-12. Oklahoma's 4-11. So we'll see how this thing plays itself out. And I think Oklahoma and Ole Miss play each other. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, if you're the Gamecocks and you look at where you're at, you're not going to be favored at the end. If you do lose the last three, then you end on a 4-game losing streak. Not good. And you've lost also like 12 or 13. Also not good. Going into the SEC tournament. Lamont also talking last night during Carolina calls, discussed containing that Georgia offense, which can be a bear. Now, the first game, South Carolina hung in there as good as they could, but here's Lamont talking about, again, the Georgia offense.
And we were one of the first teams that did that to them. Yep. So, we'll get back to the lab on what that looks like. We've made some changes in our foundational ball screen coverage since then, and seeing what works with some of those guys and tweak a couple of things. But again, two factors that will be up in the air. What will shooting look like for us again? And then what is the old rebounding thing going to look like? I know what it should look like. It should be relatively predictable, but with this group it hasn't been, and so we'll have to get back to it in that Georgia game.
And again, Georgia is not the rebounding monster that other teams that South Carolina has played are. They're just not. But Georgia on offense is very good. Now, South Carolina defensively has gotten better, especially like the last couple of games of stopping the other team's leading scorer, like Oweh at Kentucky and Hubbard at Mississippi State. Neither one really, Hubbard was terrible if you look at his shooting numbers, and Oweh scored in single digits. And defensively against Florida, South Carolina was not as bad as they were the first time against Florida when it was just awful. And then South Carolina played against an Alabama team in Tuscaloosa that can put 100 on you by the time you sneeze. And South Carolina did as good a job as you're going to do against a really good Alabama offense, one of the best offenses in the country. So the defense has gotten better. Does it still need to get better? Sure it does. But it has gotten better. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us as we go till 6 here on the postgame show. Aaliyah Boston, tell us a really funny story about Dawn Staley and punishment that Dawn Staley gave her team after a rough performance. We're going to hear that. It's really good. We're going to hear that next here on the postgame show on the Game Network, and at the Game TV Radio on YouTube. Checking the roads, we have some issues. Let's start off in Chapin. Amex Ferry Road near Mellow Woods Lane, there's an accident. Bower Parkway near Piney Grove in Columbia. St. Andrews Browning near Burning Tree. In Columbia, Fish Hatchery at Charleston Highway. Green Street near Hardin in the Five Points area. Hampton Street at Hugie. Also, I-20 eastbound after Fairfield Road, exit 70. North Brickyard Road at Two Notch. Piney Grove at I-26. Sparkleberry Lane near Clemson. Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test. Testing, testing. Oh, man, we got some accidents. Here we go. Sparkleberry Lane near Clemson Road. Piney Grove Road at I-26. North Brickyard Road at 2 Notch. I-20 eastbound after Fairfield Road, exit 70. Hampton at Hugie in Columbia. At 5 Points, Green near Hardin. Fish Hatchery near Charleston Highway. Browning near Burning Tree in St. Andrews. Bower Parkway near Piney Grove. Amex Ferry Road near Mellow Woods Lane in Chapin. We'll come back. Aaliyah Boston, a really cool story about Dawn Staley. We'll hear it next here on the postgame show. All right, so Aaliyah Boston tells a really funny story on a podcast about Dawn Staley punishing the team after a rough performance. It's pretty good. Because, again, Dawn, there's some old school in Dawn. Absolutely. And look, the world is changing. Dawn has even talked about trying to evolve with a different type of player today than when she first started coaching. And here's Aaliyah Boston telling a story about Dawn punishing her players after a rough performance.
The only punishment that we really got was when Coach Staley took away our food. Now, you're probably like, girl, what are you talking about? So we went down, my freshman year, we went down to St. Thomas, and we were playing in Paradise Jam.
Oh, yeah, I played in Paradise Jam.
And so the first game we played against Indiana, actually, we lost. And Coach Staley was pissed. She was like, you didn't listen to any of the scouts. Like, you're over here contesting three-point shooters.
Wait,
and they don't
who was on Indiana?
Like Mackenzie Holmes. That was like, I think that was her freshman year too, maybe. I don't remember the entire squad.
You're supposed to remember
I do remember
you guys lost.
I contested a jumper from Mackenzie Holmes and she didn't shoot any jumpers. And she went straight by me. And Coach Staley couldn't believe her eyes. So anyways.
How much did you guys lose by?
Not a lot. Not a lot, but that's the one loss that just always sticks with me because it was so, we didn't even have to do that. And we got done. She cussed us out. The next day we're working out and we ordered all these sandwiches, right? For the game that after practice. We show up, we see the staff getting their sandwiches. Everybody's getting their sandwiches. We're like, oh, where's our sandwiches? She's like, no. After the performance y'all had, maybe y'all ate too much. And so then she got us these smoothies that were like this big and was like, this is what you guys get. So she took away our sandwiches. Now, we ended up winning the whole tournament and winning the championship. And then we went on a run and we didn't lose another game that entire season. So that was really our only punishment. And to this day, those sandwiches was the craziest thing because it was like, why would you take away our sandwiches?
That's a phenomenal story. And I can totally see, because, this is what coaches do. You sit there waiting for your sandwich. I'll say, oh, no. Oh, maybe you guys ate too much. That's why you didn't play well. Here's a smoothie. A sip of a smoothie. I've always, and Tyler and I were talking about this earlier, about the punishment that coaches, and if you've played any level of sports, you've probably had the punishments from the coaches, right? Even I remember Chase playing Pop Warner football, Little League baseball, rec basketball. You would get, the coaches. Most of the time for me, I ran into the run till you puke coaching punishment, run the stairs, stuff like that. And we'll have 4 a.m. practice. That stuff. But when you're, I was always like this. I was a young punk. I'd be sitting there thinking to myself, going, so how's this make us better? If I'm throwing up my vital organs into a big plastic garbage can, what's that teaching me? Well, obviously, when again, a point is being made in some way, shape, or form about performance, or maybe you're not taking things seriously, or you're not focusing, or whatever, and you get these punishments. But that's a different one. Oh, no, I think you guys ate too much for that game. Anyway, that's good stuff. Now, South Carolina, again, will be the 1 seed no matter what happens against Kentucky this Sunday. And Kentucky's good. They're ranked. No matter what happens against Kentucky, South Carolina will be the 1 seed of the SEC tournament. They will play Friday, March 6th, 11:30 pregame, noon tip, and you can hear it right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia on Friday. If they keep winning and they get into the weekend, which they should, Saturday and Sunday, if they continue on, you will hear the semifinals and finals on our sister station B1067. That's the way this whole thing plays out for SEC Women's Tournament weekend for South Carolina, the third-ranked team in the country. Now, with the Gamecocks, again, look, they're really good. We know that. We watch it. We see it. Right now, they're sitting third in the country, and if you look at the deep dive of stats, again, the Bart Torvik analytics is what we look at for the women. Bart does a nice job. It's a Ken Palm for women because Ken Pomeroy does not do the women's analytics like he does the men. South Carolina is sitting third in Bart Torvik. Number 3 offensively. No, number 3 defensively. Number 4 offensively. I think there was a 3 both. 3 both. 3 offensively, 3 defensively. So obviously the team's very balanced. They shoot it well overall. They're the second best 3-point shooting team in the country by percentage. And the third best shooting team overall by percentage. The only team in the top 5 with numbers close to that offensively is UConn. UConn is the best field goal shooting team in the country and the 4th best 3-point shooting team in the country. Weird. Numbers don't make sense. Hold on. Let me look at it again. Let me refresh that. Okay, there we go. Okay. South Carolina is the 3rd best shooting team in the country and the 2nd best team defensively in holding teams down in shooting percentage. UConn is the best shooting team and the 4th best defensive team against the field goal percentage. Now, if you look at 3-point shooting, South Carolina is 11th in the country at 37% and 12th in 3-point shooting defense. 4th in 2-point shooting defense, or number 3 in 2-point, and 4th in shooting twos. So, again, they're very efficient in those areas. Top 12 in all of it. If you're looking for an Achilles heel for South Carolina, rebounding-wise, they're 127th in the country when it comes to rebounding. Defensively. Offensively, really good, 11th in the country in offensive rebounds. But they have given up some boards to the opposition. And they don't shoot a lot of threes. Matter of fact, they shoot almost the lowest amount of threes in America. But their numbers stack up against, UCLA and Connecticut. UCLA's in the Big Ten. Big Ten's good. It's good. UConn's playing in the Big East, not very good. But UConn obviously is excellent. They're defending national champions. And you look for Achilles heels for these teams again. UConn, not great defensively against the 3 if you look at the Torvik rankings. So maybe you get into a matchup where UConn doesn't defend the 3-point line well. If you're, for an example, South Carolina, you're UCLA, you shoot threes really well, you might be able to take advantage of that later in the season. Maybe the fact that UConn, even though UConn's played good teams, they whooped Tennessee. UConn does not play in a league as good as UCLA or South Carolina. Maybe that will give you something because you're looking for anything when you look at these 3 teams. And South Carolina's played Texas. Lost to them in the non-conference in a tournament and then beat them in the SEC in the regular season. Probably you'll see them in the final of the SEC tournament. The other team in the top 5 is LSU, who South Carolina beat in Baton Rouge. So that's kind of where this thing's at with the top 5. And if you're South Carolina, if the seeds hold, and you could make it to the Final Four, which they don't hold all the time, would you get UCLA in a semifinal? UCLA's got a lot of height, a lot of skill. That would be interesting. And obviously, UConn sitting here as a top dog, the defending national champions. All right, post-game show with Terry Ford hanging out here. A spring practice coming up for South Carolina. The spring practice schedule has come out. We'll get into that coming up next here on the post-game show. We go up until 6 here on the Game and the Game Network and at the Game TV, radio, and YouTube. And we'll save doing the J or nay when Jay gets back. How's that sound? Crescent Construction Grand Slam contest. If a Gamecock batter hits a bomb with the bases loaded, you can win cash. See, we're in 9 games now, $225. Sponsored by Crescent Construction. Go to 1075thegame.com to register. All right, so South Carolina has set up their spring practice schedule. There will be no spring game. There will be a festival, a fan fest type of thing. 1 o'clock, a block party right there at CLA at that corner. And then there'll be a concert. Darius Rucker headlining. Doors will open at 6. Concert, a giggle kick at 7. So that is in place of the spring game. We've talked about that. South Carolina setting their practice schedule for the season. Everything gets started Wednesday, March 4th. That's the first practice. Gamecocks will practice 15 times during the spring over a 6-week period. concluding on Saturday, April the 11th. The close of the spring drills, obviously, we said the Garnet and Black Spring Fest featuring Darius Rucker headlining the concert at CLA. Practices, again, some of them, media gets to come in and see part of it. All the practices are scheduled to start at 9:30 a.m. They'll have their annual Pro Day March 17th with South Carolina. We broadcasted live from the Pro Day the last few years. We're hoping that we can still continue to do that. And let's see, the Pro Day starts right around 9 a.m. against close to the public. But we'll try to sneak in there and set up our shows, or at least one of our shows. Maybe we'll probably do the Extra Point Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, 9 to noon block at Pro Day. Try to drag over some coaches and things of that nature. Obviously, Brandon Cisse will be front and center on the Pro Day. He was at the Combine. Obviously in Indy, and we'll talk more about that later. So that's a spring setup. And I said before, man, it stinks we don't have a spring game to go. Just kind of sit and watch some football. Something to talk about. We love doing the game. We originate the broadcast for the spring game, so it's a bummer we're not getting to do it this year. But the important thing is obviously you're installing a new offense with Kendall Briles. You know, Randy Clement's the new offensive line coach, Coach Clem, Randy Clement. The new offensive line coach. So you're putting in some new stuff there as well, and all it incorporates together to build an offense. So that's going to be very important. You're starting to work on it now, obviously, in some way, shape, or form. But then you officially get it cooking in the spring. You start really, getting on the field to install it. And then you'll then take what you glean from that and you move forward to the summer camp. You want all that ready to rock and roll by the time you kick the ball off in September. So there is a lot of work to do for South Carolina. That's why the spring game would have been fun this year. And again, I know it's vanilla and they're not showing you anything, but it would have been kind of fun to see, are you going to run some tempo in the spring? We would get to see a little something different, more RPO stuff. That would have been fun. But I get it. The renovation of Williams-Brice is kind of important. I totally understand. I'm not trying to be selfish. I get it. But that's what's going to go on with South Carolina regarding the spring schedule. By the way, also, we heard this week from Shane Beamer and also Matthew Smiley, the new special teams coach. Smiley, because, again, South Carolina is a state university, they have to release the salaries. Smiley's going to make $700,000. He gets a car. That's part of his deal. If he doesn't want to take, I guess the rig that South Carolina will give out, he gets X amount of money toward, like a stipend to go out and find his own. We'll give you this much money and now go find your own car. If you don't want to, take the one we're giving you. You're sitting there going, man, dude, I want a big truck, dude. Okay, well, big truck's not on our list here. Go get your big truck, and here's the monthly money we give you toward a car. So, and it's a multiple year deal. I think 3-year deal at $700,000. And first of all, let me just say this. I'm glad that, our business here, we don't publicly post the salaries because, first of all, it'd be really embarrassing. You go, wow, that's all you make? That's all you guys get? Man, I'm not going to let my kid get in radio. But just to get your job, if all of our jobs, it was, state law that they publicly put out your salary. Whew. Man, that would stink. But with Smiley, again, it's a 3-year deal. I think Browse is also a 3-year deal. Coach Clem also, I believe. So all of it's set up. Look, multiple year deals. And at the end of the day, I know someone's saying, well, what does that mean? Beamer's going to be here no matter what for 3 years? No. Again, if South Carolina pulls another 4 and 8, my guess is you'll have a new football coach most likely. That stinks. We love Shane here, but we're just being honest. But obviously there's buyouts and all the assistants in some way, shape, or form. You're paying out to get the assistants off the books. So I don't think a 3-year deal means that. I've had a couple people ask me that. It's like, no, it doesn't mean that. But I think if South Carolina gets back to a bowl game this year, then the seat cools down. I don't think Shane has a guy win 8 or 9 games, man. No, I think get back to a bowl game. And I think, Shane can breathe a bit. I mean, right now, is coach on a hot seat? Sure. There's a lot of hot seats being handed out over at the men's athletic side of this university. So Shane knows what's up. They got to produce this year. You have back-to-back losing seasons. It probably means you'll be no longer the head coach at South Carolina. I think he understands that. But if you go back to a bowl game, I think everything kind of cools down. And we're not having that first of all, I think Shane keeps his job. And two, we're not having that conversation going into 2027. Now, again, the expectations will have a ramp-up effect because they always do. But I think getting back to a bowl game is what you need to do. That's my guess. I will take a look at our Twitter polls of the last couple days regarding South Carolina Clemson baseball for this weekend. That's coming up in the next segment. And the 5 o'clock news sponsored by Integrated Media. Post-game show with Terry Ford. Another hour right here on the game. All right, it was quite busy a little while ago. Let's see what's happening here. Slow down a bit. We still have a couple of accidents. Bauer Parkway at Piney Grove Road in Columbia. Also, Piney Grove at I-26 in Lexington. That accident, Brickyard Road at Two Notch, is still going on in Columbia. Also in Columbia, I-20 eastbound right after exit 70, that's Fairfield Road. And a new one, St. Andrews, Browning Road near Burning Tree. I think that's a new one. Now, hell, I can't remember that far back. All right, let's check the 5 o'clock news sponsored by our Buds Integrated Media. All right, the NFL Combine is rolling. Day 2. Saw an interesting Brandon Cisse story because a bunch of teams have been meeting with Brandon Cisse and talking with him because, again, Cisse, once you get to the second part of the first round, Cisse becomes in play. Most mocks you see have Cisse somewhere between 20 and 32. I saw one where Cisse was at 17 or 18. And I've only seen one mock draft where Cisse is not being taken in the first round. All right, so Brandon Cisse, and this is from the Detroit Lions website. Brandon Cisse told a story Thursday about begging his mom for $100 as a senior in high school to attend the NC State football camp. He had said it took some convincing, but she agreed, and it turned into a scholarship offer a week later from NC State. After 2 years at NC State, obviously Cisse goes to South Carolina, and he should hear his name either late first round or sometime in the second round. And so that's the money you're going to make compared to that $100. Pretty good deal by Brandon Cisse. This is an interesting story. And again, Cisse is multiple teams. Seahawks, the defending Super Bowl champions, the Chiefs, just a couple of different teams at least, and probably even more, will be interviewing Brandon Cisse. We'll just see where he ends up when it comes to draft day. Like, I could see him going lower part of the first round. Would not be surprised at all. Could go early, mid-second. I think that's as low as he'll go. Now, overall, South Carolina has Jalen Kilgore, Brandon Cisse, Nick Barrett, Rasul Faison at the Combine. And we'll get you caught up on the things we do see and do hear and do read about South Carolina at the Combine. Nick Barrett, word from some folks that Barrett had a strong showing. Do I think Nick Barrett can play in the NFL? Yeah. Do I think he's probably a day 3 guy off the top of my head? Yeah, probably. But in the right defense, Nick Barrett could be a rotational piece, could be a contributor. I mean, yeah, I could have, and I think Jalen Kilgore will probably go second, third round. You know, Kilgore 2 years ago was really good. Last year, not as much, and one of the biggest differences was there wasn't as much pass rush. But I think Kilgore also can be a guy to play in the NFL. Absolutely, and possibly start. Again, depending on what defense he goes to. I say this all the time, and it depends on the team so many times. I mean, sometimes you take a guy, get day 3, he's just a day 3 guy, and, if he can hang around the league, he hangs around the league, right? And sometimes, a guy might get drafted too high and he just doesn't bring it. He doesn't get better. He doesn't evolve. He doesn't work, or he's just not as good as you thought, or you just made a mistake. But most of the time, just my opinion of being a draft dork that I am, a lot of it depends on the team you go to, the coaching staff you go to, the culture you go to. All that matters. And Nick Eamon couldn't have found a better spot to land. Yeah, he wasn't a first-round pick, and we thought he would end up going somewhere late first round, sort of like Cisse. And Nick goes in the second round, but the landing spot was phenomenal. Because Mike Macdonald, the head coach in Seattle, a high-level defensive coordinator, and just an excellent defensive mind, he saw the possibilities of Eamon Warry. He's like, man, we got this big dude who's freakishly fast and athletic, plays a run like a demon, can cover ground if you maybe put him in zone coverages, can cover bigger receivers in the slot, can blitz. See, the head coach in Seattle looked at what Nick could do, didn't get hung up on what he couldn't do, which is go out there and try to man up on quick, shifty receivers in the slot. He can't do it. It's not his strength. But that's okay because we just talked about all these other strengths. So I'm sure there are teams that looked at Nick in the first round, and if they were thinking about it, was like, yeah, but man, we don't want him to get exposed in bad matchups with quick, fast receivers. That's going to be an issue, blah, blah, blah. Some teams, they get hung up on what you can't do. I think good teams look at what you can do. And how does that fit what they do? And McDonald said, this guy's going to be perfect for me. I'm going to line him up at safety, outside linebacker, inside linebacker, nickel. I'm going to put him all over the bleeping field. He played almost as many. I think, I got to say, I think it was the time I was reading a story about how McDonald used Eamon Warry. I believe he used him in as many snaps at outside linebacker as he did at safety or nickel. Basically, McDonald set Eamon Warry up to succeed, and Nick did. I think Cisse is an interesting piece. I've said this before. Brandon Cisse was South Carolina's best defensive player last year. Also their best run defender. There's a lot of good to Cisse's game. He's fast. He plays the run well. He can cover in the slot or out wide. Yeah, he does get beat, early on routes at times and has to, try to play catch up. But he brings a lot of positive stuff to the table. He's not a freak athlete. I mean, Nick was just a ridiculous athlete for a man that size. It's almost like unfair. But Cisse, if you look at what he can do more than what he can't do, and Cisse goes to the right team, he can have a really good career. That's just the way I feel. And really Kilgore in a way, too. Not as much as Cisse, but again, where is Kilgore going to end up? Is he going to go to a team that plays to his strengths, whether it's in coverage, playing the run, whatever? Or are you going to go to a team that understands what you can do and doesn't get hung up on what you can't do? I always say this about a guy. If he has a nice list of things that he's good at, there's a couple things he's not. How about not putting him in the situation that he can't do? Unless it's something that you just can't get past, and that's a different conversation. But that's me. Again, it circles back to kind of looking at Cisse like Seattle looked at Eamon Warry last year. Just saying. So that's the stuff from the Combine. And look, if you've been listening to either the halftime show, the postgame show here in my, almost 5 years, I am not a Combine guy. I think it's overrated. I truly think it's the underwear Olympics. I think if a guy runs a fast 40 and all of a sudden he goes up on your draft board, that's insane. Turn on the tape. Again, how does he play with pads and gear on when people are trying to decapitate him? Does he play fast then? Last time I looked, there is not a play in the NFL where you line up in track gear and run a straight line for 40 yards. again, the Rams are just, it's like they're playing chess and everybody else is playing with their toes. The Rams have gone to, we want the GPS speed of your players in practice, in games, individual players at the Senior Bowl, practice in games. The Rams care about how fast you play the game of football, because if they draft you, I don't know, you're going to play the game of football. The one thing there's one thing at the Combine, though, I believe is interesting, is when you put guys on the whiteboard. Whether it's the Combine, a pro day, a visit at the facility, whenever you put a guy on the whiteboard, that's value to me. The quarterback on the whiteboard, maybe the defensive signal caller on a whiteboard, whatever. Other players, you put them on a whiteboard just to get that football IQ and what they've done when it comes to, plays and schemes and schematics and systems. That's where you get something, to me. Not, hey, my quarterback has a great vertical. Wow, that's fantastic. Can he throw the ball accurately down the field? Can he read coverages? Is he a hard worker? I don't know, but he's got a really good vertical. Saw it at the Combine. Okay, whatever. But for what it's worth, Nick Barrett was good at the Combine yesterday. Brandon Cisse, Jalen Kilgore, they were hitting the field today. We'll see if we can dig up some numbers for you before we get out of here at 6. 5 o'clock news sponsored by Bud's Integrated Media. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us here on The Game and The Game Network and at The Game TV Radio on YouTube. Speaking of the Combine, Diego Pavia is at the Combine. He has not toned things down. He says he's going to throw. Pavia said today or yesterday, the one thing about me is I don't care what people think about me. He said the criticism of him is a product of media generating and that he described as clickbait. Yeah, no. Pavia, of course, when he was the Heisman runner-up, had to issue an apology after posting a message that included F all the voters. Now, that again, that wasn't media-driven, dude, for clickbait. That was you. That was you looking for clickbait. That was you. Members of the media didn't hack your social media account and put that up. Now, the whole thing about Diego Pavia is he bringing intangibles like off-the-field leadership and stuff like that. Look what he did at Vanderbilt. You got to give him his props, or I'll give him his props, for what he did at Vanderbilt to change a culture. And he was a true leader, and those intangibles, Pavia is great. It's going to be, and to be honest with you, Pavia was very accurate throwing the football down the field. Problem with Pavia is his size and his arm strength to make some NFL throws. That's just a problem. It's not this stuff, the blank all the voters on social media. It's can you make NFL throws? It's very simple. So, and is your size going to get you killed? So that's really the thing with Diego Pavia. But Pavia's at the Combine saying, "Dude, I'm me." And Ty Simpson, looked at as the number 2 quarterback in the upcoming draft, says he's going to throw at the Combine, which I think is really smart by Ty Simpson. He's a guy that is kind of all over the board. Some people think he'll be a first-rounder, mid-first round, late first round. People, though, say the only reason he's going to go in the first round because, well, teams overvalue quarterbacks, and he's the second-best quarterback in the draft. I think it's smart for Simpson to throw to show people in this silly setting that is the Combine or his pro day, which will be later, he's trying to up his draft stock. I'll play your Combine game. I'll go out here and throw with no pass rush, no complex coverages. Yeah, sure. I'll do it. The thing with Ty Simpson, and we talk about this all the time, when it comes to the draft, one of the buckets of failure for quarterbacks is lack of starts. Simpson's only had one season of starts in college. He also started a game. Did he start that game against South Florida a few years ago? But Simpson only really had 1 year as a starter. That typically leads to the bucket of failure. It probably would have been smarter for Ty Simpson to go back to Alabama for another year. Just saying. But Simpson I get it though. There's a lot of people telling Ty Simpson he'll go somewhere in the second half of the first round, that's first round money. After this upcoming season, a lot more guys who can go in the draft. Maybe Arch Manning, Lenoris, the kid Moore out at Oregon, and Simpson might not be a first round pick. So you look at it and say, okay, maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I should come back, but you know what? I'm going to be a first round pick with a guaranteed rookie contract of 5 years. And if I do play well and I do work on my game and it does work out for me, that second contract, bam, I am going to be loaded. So that's news from the Combine. All right, Gamecock Notebook. We're going to crack it open and talk men's basketball, a little bit about the women, and also some baseball. That is coming up next here on the Postgame Show with Terry Ford here on The Game. (803-875-MENS). That's the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Give Dr. Dan and the staff a call. Go in. Get your concerns in your life eased. You might just have low testosterone issues. Just one way to find out is make that call. Set up your free confidential consultation. Tell them what's going on with you, whether it's, I got a lack of drive. In the boardroom, the bedroom, the living room, the kitchen, the basement, the backyard. I don't have any drive in life anymore. I got the blizz. Maybe at the gym, you can't lift like you used to. Maybe you don't bounce back from exercise like you used to. Maybe you can't remember stuff. Maybe you can't sleep right. Go in and talk with the folks at the Men's Clinic. Let them help you. 803-875-MENS, the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. All right, let's roll some Gamecock Notebook here on the post-game show. South Carolina, Clemson this weekend. Coach Paul Maneri, after that loss against Queens, was asked, basically, how do you move on from that? And, well, here's what the coach had to say about that issue.
Well, you have to learn from things. I mean, anytime something negative happens or some adversity strikes, you can choose to pout about it and feel sorry for yourselves, or you can learn from it. And, I think we'll learn from it, but it's also in the past, and you can't do anything about the past. They don't give you do-overs. You just got to take it like a man and learn from it and get ready for the next day. It's difficult sometimes. Heck, it's difficult for coaches, much less 18 to 22-year-olds. But one good thing about being 18 to 22 years old, and it's not your profession necessarily, is you have other things to distract you. School, relationships, all those kinds of things. So they sometimes have short memories, which is a positive thing. Coaches seem to have longer memories because it's our livelihood, and we know the responsibility that we have to provide our fans and our university with success. So, but the players will be fine. It's funny because last year at this time we were undefeated going into this series, and yet I feel better about our team this year than I did even last year. I just feel like we have a more talented team across the board, depth in our pitching staff, good, a stronger bullpen, and when we swing in the bats well, we have a good offensive team. It's just that sometimes it just fluctuates. But hopefully, we'll show our best this weekend.
Yeah, I get where Coach is coming from, saying even though this team's record isn't better, this team talent-wise is better. I don't disagree with that. I think offensively there's more versatility, more variety, more power. I think pitching-wise you have guys with better arms who bring better talent to the mound. So, yeah, I mean, but they have not played up to, look, no one's sitting here saying that South Carolina should be a top 25 team. But right now, they should be better than they've been this year, if that makes any sense. Clemson's undefeated. Again, they lead the country in WHIP, which means they don't put a lot of base runners on. Their team ERA is 1.43. Ashby Mixon of Clemson Insider discussing some of the storylines for the Clemson Tigers. She did that on the Extra Point yesterday, and here's what Ashby had to say about storylines for Clemson.
Well, first and foremost, I think for the Clemson team, the pitching this year is improved. They've brought in transfer guys, Michael Sharman from Tennessee, and a lot of freshman guys in Dylan Harrison, Eston Simpson, some guys that are throwing a lot harder than most anybody on the roster was last year. That's been improved, and they've been solid through these 8 games. I think they have an average of like a 1 ERA or something like that. Might be a little bit above that now, but they've been shoving teams down, and the offense has found different ways to win alongside that. On offense, you have a lot of guys that have improved from last season. Luke Gaffney, who struggled at times last year, the first baseman. Jacob Jarrett, the catcher, is back. He already has 4 home runs. Jaron Purify and a few other guys are returning. But they look to be improved so far through these first 8 games.
And with Clemson, the pitching, obviously, especially the starting pitching, with Canuck and Sharman at the top of the rotation, those guys combined have been filthy. They've thrown 19 innings and given up 1 earned run. Yeah, they've been good. Offensively, it's a team, Nate Savoy, who came in from the portal from Loyola Marymount, I do believe if my memory serves me. Savoy's been stupid. I mean, he's hitting 467, slugging 833. His on base is like 530. 3 homers, knocked in 11 so far. Also, Ashby was talking about, Jacob Jarrell has 4 home runs. He's also slugging in the 800s, tied with Savoy, 833 slugging percentage. I mean, Luke Gaffney's hitting 646. I mean, they got 2 other guys hitting 400 right now. It gets early in the year. It's 8 games. I get it, but they've been on fire offensively. Remember, South Carolina lost to Army. Clemson swept Army. The first game was a 1-run contest, I think 3-2 in the next 2. Clemson just blistered Army. So my point is, Clemson's a good baseball team. And South Carolina's going to have to play mistake-free and play to their ability to do some damage in this series. All right, so the South Carolina men's basketball team will go to Athens, Georgia tomorrow. 3 o'clock pregame, 3:30 tip right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia and our affiliate 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. So Jeff Borzello from ESPN put out his coaching carousel Bible, basically guidebook. And he's got different levels of heat for coaches, jobs that could be open, probably a year away from being open. And on that list is Lamont Paris. Here's what Borzello says. After struggling in year 1 in Columbia, Lamont Paris guided the Gamecocks to a 26-win season, earning a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament and winning SEC Coach of the Year. But the Gamecocks haven't come close to sustaining that momentum since. It sounds like the school plans to increase Paris's NIL budget in hope he will turn things around next season. Paris had signed a 6-year, $26 million extension through 29-30, and there's just over $12 million remaining. And we've talked about that. There's a road where Lamont comes back next year with more money being given to him to build a roster. And we've said this over and over again. This issue at South Carolina when it comes to men's basketball is a they problem, not a coach problem. The bigger issue is the investment in men's basketball. I mean, no matter who the coach is next year, you need to give them more money. I mean, we said every team except 2 spends at least $8 million on men's basketball in the SEC. South Carolina and Oklahoma. 2 teams are at the bottom of the league, pretty much. Oklahoma's got 4 wins. South Carolina has got 3. You've got to spend money. There's no guarantee spending money is going to do it. You got to spend it right. I mean, LSU spent more money this year, and they've had some injuries, but Matt McMahon's squad is sitting at the bottom of the league again. He's going to get fired, most likely. Maybe they'll use he's had injuries excuse to bring him back because they don't want to pay the buyout. But McMahon, that hasn't worked. Ole Miss has spent over the $8 million mark, but Chris Beard's team is bad, and Chris Beard's a hell of a head coach. So it's investing more money, but also making smart decisions. And I think the whole program needs to be looked at. Just like Shane Beamer, no stones unturned when Shane has had bad seasons and he attacks the offseason. He looks at himself and he goes, okay, what can I do better? What do I have to do different? What's not working? What is working? I think Lamont's got to do the same thing. I think Lamont truly has to go in whatever room he's got a mirror, shut the door, look in the mirror and say, okay, what do I need to change? 3 of my 4 seasons have been god-awful. I need more money to build a better roster, but what can I do to change? Do I need a general manager? Do I need someone to help me scout? Do I need to change how I coach, the systems of offense and defense I want to run? How has the game changed? What's the SEC like? What do I have to do? The money's a big part of it, but I think everything should be looked at in this program. Because, again, 1 year under Lamont was fantastic. They got to the NCAA tournament. He was coach of the year. But the other 3 seasons, if this continues to go the way it is this year, you got 3 20-loss campaigns. So we'll see where it goes. But there is smoke that you will see Lamont Paris come back next year. It's not a done deal, obviously, and we'll see how the season ends, but it's out there. A drive around the SEC is coming up next here on the Postgame Show with Terry Ford. Always happy to have you hang out with us as we go till 6 here on the Game and the Game Network and at the Game TV Radio on YouTube. righty. That accident, 2-notch near Clemson Road, they're still cleaning that baby up. I-20 westbound before Spears Creek Church Road, exit 82. I got to drive there later. Huh, I'm going eastbound, though. Okay, thanks. Anyway, Gardner's Ferry Road at Pineview Road, Bush River Road near I-20. We'll come back if you drive around the SEC. Check out the schedules around the SEC this weekend. That's next here on the Postgame Show. And also tonight here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia and in Myrtle Beach. 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch, South Carolina, Clemson. This series is on starting tonight. All right, obviously we have baseball tonight, like we said. And we kind of touched on this earlier. How good is the SEC in baseball? 7 of the top 10 teams in D1's top 25 are SEC squads. Number 3, Texas. Number 4, Mississippi State. Number 6, Arkansas. Number 7, Auburn. And number 10, Florida. So you have 7 of the top 10. Again, only 3 teams are not in the force. It's 6 teams of 10. I'm sorry. UCLA, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Coastal Carolina. Obviously, not SEC schools. The other 6 are. Georgia is 11. So 7 of the top 11 is what I want to say. Or SEC squads. Then you have Oklahoma at 13. Tennessee at 20. Kentucky at 22, A&M at 23, Ole Miss at 25. A lot of SEC teams, man. And that's the gauntlet that South Carolina will be getting coming soon. I believe 12 SEC teams, I think, are in this top 25, almost half. All right, turning to hoops. Tomorrow in the SEC, Missouri travels to Mississippi State. The Tigers are trying to keep themselves in the NCAA tournament. They're sitting there. They're in that bubble thing right now. They're in. Especially they got a really nice win at home. Earlier in the week, they beat Tennessee. That was a nice W. Helped Missouri's resume. They will go to Mississippi State. Well, you can't slip up now if you're Missouri. You got to go to Starkville, and it doesn't care if you win by half a point. You got to go to Starkville and come out of there with a win. Missouri will go to Mississippi State. That's a 1 o'clock tip on the SEC Network. 2 o'clock ESPN, number 25 Vanderbilt at Rupp to face Kentucky. Both those teams right now are in the tournament. Texas, they're hovering around the bubble. They've got to win. Texas A&M has got to win. They're not as desperate, but A&M, it's in their best interest in College Station not to lose to Texas. This is an important game for both teams regarding NCAA tournament positioning. That's 4 o'clock ESPN 2. 6 o'clock ESPN Saturday, number 17 Alabama at number 22 Tennessee. Again, 2 teams that are in the dance. They're just jockeying for seeding. 6 p.m. SEC Network, Oklahoma. Porter Moser's coaching for his job, maybe. LSU, Matt McMahon, definitely coaching for his job. And this game will be interesting for seeding in the SEC tournament. LSU's 3-12, Oklahoma's 4-11. If the Sooners go to Baton Rouge and win, that gives them some daylight in being the 13 seed. But if LSU wins and pulls Oklahoma back to the pack, then this thing gets more jumbled up for that first day seeding in the SEC tournament. That game again, 6 o'clock SEC Network. 8:30 ESPN, number 20 Arkansas. The Razorbacks at home have been killing people. On the road, they're good. They're just not as good as they are at home. Number 20 Arkansas at number 7 Florida. Gators have been just, they didn't care where they play. Home, road, in your living room, in your den. It doesn't matter. Florida has just been on a heater. If their guard play, and I've said this before, Xavier Lee is the key. The kid from the Ivy League, the transfer portal addition. If Xavier Lee can play well, Florida can get back to the Final Four. I feel like their lack of consistent three-point shooting eventually will bite them in the backside, and they'll get beat. But Florida, if Lee can make shots, because Boogie Fland is who he is, his backcourt running mate. But if Lee can make shots, Florida can go deep in the tournament. They're hosting Arkansas tomorrow. Ole Miss has been a huge disappointment. They'll take on a bigger disappointment, Auburn. That game is on the Plains. That's 8:30 SEC Network. The Arkansas-Florida game, 8:30 ESPN. And obviously in the SEC, Florida has just taken over the lead in the conference. They've been that good. They've been doing such a heater. And besides that, it's kind of a jumbled mess. I mean, Alabama's sitting at 11-4. Tennessee's 10-5. Arkansas is 11-4 as well. But right now, they're cruising. They really are. All right, in the SEC on the women's side this weekend, obviously we've talked about South Carolina taking on Kentucky at Rupp. We'll carry that game on our sister station, B1067. Again, 1:30 pregame, 2 o'clock tip. Number 4, Texas, and number 24, Alabama. That game's noon, SEC Network. Texas, obviously, a couple games behind South Carolina. Also, the Gamecocks beat Texas in the conference race, in a kind of conference game, rather, here at CLA. Vanderbilt's also 12-3. They will travel to Knoxville to take on Tennessee, who has really stumbled after a nice start. The Texas-Bama game, again, noon, SEC Network. South Carolina, Kentucky, SEC Plus at 2 p.m., ESPN 2 p.m. for Vanderbilt, Tennessee. Auburn going to Fayetteville to play Arkansas, 2 bad teams. Auburn 3-12, Arkansas 0-15. 2 o'clock, SEC Network. 3 o'clock, SEC Plus, Texas A&M goes to Ole Miss. 19th ranked Rebels should handle their business against A&M. 3 o'clock, SEC Plus, Florida travels to Georgia, 2 teams with losing records in the conference. Georgia, though, is 23rd ranked in the country, despite being 7-8 in the league. They're 21-8 overall. And then at 4 o'clock, number 6, LSU goes to Mississippi State. That game is on the SEC Network. LSU 11-4 in the league, number 6 in the country. Number 7 in the land, Oklahoma. They will be on the road to face Missouri. That is 4 o'clock, SEC Plus. There you go. That's the schedules in men's and women's basketball in the top 25 in D1 baseball. All righty, the Spring Golf Classic at Charwood. Again this year, April 3rd. It's a Friday. And we'll be in West Columbia hanging out with our buddies Rock and Daniel Lucas. The day will kick off featuring Saki's Morning Libations Bar. Then we have the world-famous onion sausage provided by the Lexington Gamecock Club. The golf gun is back. I love the golf gun. That's back as well. 400 a team, 100 for an individual. Just call Charwood, 803-755-2000. Press 2 for the clubhouse. Again, 803-755-2000. Press 2 for the clubhouse to register. We'll wrap this baby up. Look at the wagering angles in these games this weekend in the SEC for the men. And maybe we'll grab a couple for the women as well. That's coming up here on the postgame show with Terry Ford. Happy to have you hanging out with us as we finish this baby up next here on the Game Network, and also our YouTube channel at The Game TV Radio. All right, we have this cool thing called Sweet Deals at 1075thegame.com. It's right there at the top of the website. You see the word Sweet Deals. I know. Stunning. And you click there, and all these cool deals come up. Our featured sweet deal this month, the Columbia YMCA, 50% off a 6-month membership. Half off. That's what 50% means, right? So to me, that's a great sweet deal. So again, 50% off a 6-month membership to the YMCA. I venture the YMCA. Every now and then I'll talk to somebody and they'll go, hey, your voice sounds familiar. But yeah, I mean, I like, me personally, I'm not objective. I love the place. I've been going there for the YMCA wherever I've lived. I'm always one step ahead of the law. I've lived all over the country, and I'm always joining YMCA. So I'm a YMCA guy. And the one downtown here, fantastic. So again, go to 1075thegame.com and click Sweet Deals. All right, so let's get the old. I wanted, you know, here I won't lie to you. You know, at times I get to sit down and really hunker in and do a little research on these versus the internet picks, and some days I don't get to do squat because it asks me to do this other job. Anyway, I didn't get to do a whole lot of preparation for this one. We'll see how it goes. Give it a whirl. By the way, we lost. We took Purdue at home against Michigan State last night. We took Purdue to cover the number, and Michigan State won. Thanks, Purdue. All right, the SEC, let's start with the men. Tomorrow, we'll go with the ranked on ranked violence. Number 17, Alabama. Number 22, Tennessee. Tennessee at home, -4.5 against Bama. It's always tough with Bama because, again, they're so good on offense, and when they feel like playing defense, they're very difficult to beat. Alabama on the road in Knoxville. I think I'll take Tennessee at home to cover the 4.5. Tennessee, that was a weird loss at Missouri because Tennessee had been playing so well. But Tennessee at home, I think they'll get it back together and they'll cover the 4.5 against Alabama. Another ranked versus ranked showdown. Number 20, Arkansas. Number 7, Florida. In Gainesville. Florida's given Arkansas 10.5. Arkansas is a good basketball team, and that's how well Florida's playing. Now this game's in Fayetteville, it's a whole different ball game. All right, I'm looking at Arkansas on the road. Let's do this on the air. What the hell? Arkansas, their last road game, they lost to Alabama. As I remember, that game was a heck of a game. 117-115 overtime. Before that, Alabama went to LSU and won by 30. Was at Oklahoma, won by 4. Lost at Georgia by 14. Lost at Auburn, got skunked at Auburn by 22. Did beat Ole Miss, but Ole Miss is terrible. So it's a lot of with Arkansas on the road. I'm going to take Florida to win and cover that 10.5 at home. Arkansas is not the same team away from Fayetteville. And Texas A&M, a big game regarding the NCAA tournament seeding. We're really getting in the NCAA tournament, the bubble, I should say. This game, off the board. I just noticed that. Wow, that's weird. Nothing on ESPN about the number. Okay, we'll move along. Kentucky at home versus Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's a 1.5 point favorite at home. I keep wanting Kentucky to be Kentucky. Or not wanting, thinking Kentucky's going to be Kentucky again at some point. Look, they lost 3 straight. They did get a W against the Gamecocks, but Kentucky did not play well. They were only up by 2 with 2:52 to go. Vanderbilt is at Rupp. Vanderbilt has been kind of since they were undefeated for a long time and they finally lost. I'm going to take Kentucky at home. I really like Vanderbilt, but Kentucky at some point has got to stand up and be Kentucky. I think they will against Vandy and win the game, even though Vandy is the road favorite. All right, the SEC women, let's do a couple of these real quick. Number 24, Alabama, hosting number 4, Texas. I'm going to take Texas. Alabama's good. Texas is better. Just saying. So I'll take that winner there in Texas. Take Ole Miss over A&M. Georgia will beat Florida. LSU wins at Mississippi State. Oklahoma will win at Missouri. I think a lot of chalk for the women this weekend. Just saying. So there you go. Little picking. Some of it just picking outright. Some of it picking against the number for the weekend. All right, so we got South Carolina, Clemson tonight. Again, we start up at 6:45 with the pregame. 7 o'clock first pitch. Rain has stopped. Man, rain like all day. Rain has stopped. Should be no more rain in the forecast the rest of the night. The rotation, again, Josh Gunther, the transfer from Wake Forest, will start tonight for South Carolina. Aiden Canuck, who has not given up a run yet this year in 2 starts, will take the ball for Clemson. Tomorrow, South Carolina has Amp Lee toe the rubber. Michael Sharman, transfer portal addition from Tennessee, with a 0.82 ERA in 11 innings, will get the start. Sunday, Riley Goodman, who's been the Friday starter the last 2 weekends, will now be the Sunday guy. Goodman will face Talon Bell, the Clemson lefty. So obviously on paper, you like Clemson's starting staff versus South Carolina, but thank God the game's not played on paper. We've been talking about it on and off through the show. If you're the Gamecocks, you have just got to, you can't beat yourself. Your pitchers have to throw strikes. Your defenders behind your pitchers, when Clemson puts a ball in play, you can't kick it around the yard. Three errors in the Queen's loss. You can't beat yourself. And then you see where you go. I mean, again, Clemson on paper is a better team. They're undefeated, they're number 15 in the country. You just have to go out and be the best version of you. You have talent. You just not have played consistently to your talent. You know, Clemson, I mean, defensively, they made 11 errors this year. So maybe if you have some good ABs, you barrel the ball consistently in this series, maybe Clemson will help you out by making some errors. But the Clemson pitching staff is really good. The starters are, wow, especially the first 2 guys in Canuck and Sharman. Be nice to get the W in game 1, then you can breathe a little bit since, last year you got swept. So that's kind of where the whole thing is going to be at this weekend. We'll see where it all goes again tonight. It is on 107.5 The Game, starting with coverage at 6:30. Tomorrow on our sister station, 98.5 WOMG, coverage starts at 2:45. Sunday back here on 107.5 The Game, coverage again starts at 2:45. The big weekend is here. We have our pre-game with Elijah and Tyler tomorrow from 1 to 2:30 here on The Game to get you ready for the Battle of Bull Street. Thanks a lot for hanging out and putting up with me. I've had a week. I got to go. I don't know. I need to go to the men's clinic. I'll talk to you on Monday. Have a good weekend. Thanks a lot.